For a couple weeks now I've been saying I'm going to make a video about how to make the struts for our Archimedes domes, and I've been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and what I realized this morning is it's so simple that I probably could knock it out in just a couple minutes. So that said, let me tell you a little bit about our struts. As you know, we make the struts for the dome out of electrical metal tubing. This is a piece of 3/4 inch electrical metal tubing. It comes in 10-foot lengths. The biggest problem with our domes and shipping is it costs more to ship the EMT than it does to buy it new. So we encourage any of our buyers that have that DIY spirit to make their own struts whenever they can, because it's such an easy thing. So today I'm going to tell you how to make a strut. So EMT comes in 10-foot lengths. We cut our struts into 3 different sizes: 30 inches, 40 inches, and 60 inches. That's the Scout, the Nomad, and the Lodge. That allows us to cut the pipe into even lengths without having any waste from any of the 10-foot lengths. So that's how we got to our 3 sizes. So just depending on how big of a dome you want to build, you can either cut them in quarters or thirds or in half. This one is actually just a little bit of a short piece just because I wanted to show you what we were doing today. You're going to need one tool to do this job. That is an angle grinder, the workhorse of the metal shop. Anyone who's ever worked in a metal shop probably has held this tool more than any other one in the shop because it does most of the work. You're going to need 3 different blades to do this. You're going to need a cutting blade, which is very thin, a 4.5 inch cutting blade so that you can slice the pipe in half. You're going to need a 1/4 inch grinding blade. This one's a little bit thicker because this is the one that we actually use to make the notch that you're going to need for it to fit into our hub. And then the last thing you're going to need is a flap disc. And a flap disc is lots of little pieces of sandpaper stuck to one disc. This is going to allow you to clean up the edges of this once you've cut it and got it ready to assemble. So, what do? You take the angle grinder, you take your cutting disc, you make a mark at 30, 40, or 60 inches, and you cut it. It's that easy. You just slice it in half. The next thing you do, you switch out to your fabric disc, and what you're trying to do is make a notch in the end of this. If you see, it kind of goes straight through and is perfectly lined up. This can be made by putting this into there. Now, what does this do? Our hub, as you know, has this little blade on it as well. So when you slide the pole on, it interlocks like that and does not allow for any rotation. And then once you put the compression harness on it, it won't pop out, and that's one of the cornerstones of our design. So all you're doing is making a notch in the pole. Now, the tricky part is you have to make a notch in both ends of the pole. So normally what Michael and I do is we line them all up, we grind, do all of one side, and then he comes to the other end and I hold these so they're straight up, and then he does one on the other end so that they're exactly lined up. I mean, not exactly, but pretty close. So that when you attach one hub to one end and then another hub to the other end, they align and there's no twisting. That's the only important thing you have to remember is the notches you make with the 1/4 inch grinding bit have to align on both ends. It slides in, then you take your flap disc, you clean everything up, and it's done. It's that easy. Anyone can do it. You can make a set of poles in probably less than an hour, probably maybe half a day if you go out and buy all the tools necessary. If you have any feedback, don't hesitate to email us. We're always ready to answer your questions. Thanks.